I can't remember the last time a real drummer, who also happens to be one of the frontmen of this band, played on a record with other real musicians, and that record went straight to the top of the charts.
Enter Silk Sonic.
Hi, my name is Vish, and I'm the dad.
Hi, my name is Kira and I'm the daughter.
And together, we're the Dad and Daughter Podcast. And this is episode number 2.
Before we dive into today's episode, we'd like to take the time to thank you guys for all your feedback and all the comments and the likes. We appreciate it and we've taken all of that into consideration. And with that being said, we hope you enjoy today's episode.
And coming to today's episode, today we're reviewing Silk Sonic's debut album, An Evening with Silk Sonic.
Today we're talking about Silk Sonic, which is a band that comprises of two immensely talented artists, one being Bruno Mars, whom I've been a fan of since I was 6 years old. He is an inspiration to my songwriting and his music is so catchy and groovy. And the other member being Anderson .Paak, whom again, I am a huge fan of. I think he has the most wonderful personality and he's such a bubbly guy and his music is very reflective of that. What do you think of the two of them?
I like both of them because, of course, personally for me, they're both drummers, they're both producers, and of course, phenomenal singers and songwriters.
True. The story about how the two of them came together is very interesting because Anderson .Paak and Bruno Mars met each other on Bruno Mars's tour when he was touring for 24 Karat Magic. So they met each other, they became friends, and this album is a long-awaited album because they've been writing it since 2016. So you can tell that each and every song on this album has taken its own time. They've curated it very specially, very tastefully for their listeners.
Yeah, it's really quite a show, like they call it.
They call it, yeah.
Yes.
They don't like calling it an album, they like calling it a show because during the pandemic where they wanted to tour and they wanted to give us a performance, they couldn't do it because, everyone was holed up at home. So they decided, let's give everyone a show at home. So they don't like referring to the album as an album, they like referring to it as a show.
Yeah, come to think of it, from start to finish, it feels like you're at some kind of Vegas residency show. So yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that concept. I'd like to talk a little bit about the production on this album. In fact, I've made a few notes, so I'm just going to refer to them here. Let's start with Leave the Door Open. And this is a vibe that is there pretty much throughout the entire album. It is a time machine, for that matter. The way I look at it is that it takes you back straight into the 70s. There's Motown, there's soul, there's R&B, there's funk, there's jazz,
and
there's blues.
Yeah.
Oh my God, yes. And it is such a phenomenal journey when you listen to it. And you're immediately transported right from the first note, which is the intro, then onwards to the lead single, Leave the Door Open. They've made interesting usage of vintage synths and sounds. They've got real musicians in there playing these instruments. It's got phenomenal harmonies right through and throughout the entire album. There's a few songs which have got excellent call and response style of songwriting.
Right, and it's funny that you mentioned that. My favorite song on the album is Smoking Out the Window, and they feature the call and response style of writing right from the beginning. Like Bruno Mars goes, must have spent 45,000 up in Tiffany's. And then Anderson .Paak goes, oh no. So you can see it's like a conversation happening between the two of them.
Yes, it's really amazing. And they've really implemented a lot of those influences that they've drawn from the 70s and from, of course, even Disclosure's Guy Lawrence, as well as Nile Rodgers from Chic, a phenomenal guitarist of Chic and who also played on Daft Punk's Random Access Memories.
Right. And it's funny that you mentioned 70s. They've actually featured an artist that was big in the 70s, Bootsy Collins.
Yes, and here's a little bit of trivia. It was Bootsy Collins that named them
Silk Sonic.
And now moving on to the lead single from the album, which is Leave the Door Open. And obviously that is a massive hit, which is a #1 song, by the way. And there is one particular section of that song, undoubtedly, which has been stuck in my head ever since I've heard it.
Let me guess what part it is. I'ma leave the door open
I'ma leave the door open.
I'ma leave the door open, girl.
I'ma leave the door open, hoping. All right, enough of me singing. But yes, that song is just constantly stuck in my head. The beauty about it is it's so good despite being a ballad, actually, if you think about it. And there are quite a few ballads on this album, which we're going to come to one after the other.
Yeah.
But undoubtedly, phenomenal song. And watching Anderson .Paak playing the drums and singing it and doing it so effortlessly is just an absolute treat to watch.
I like how both of them are singing it, and it's very different. Like, you can hear the change in both their voices, but they both are equally contributing to the atmosphere that's created through the song.
And that's something that is constantly featured right throughout. I love the way they've balanced their voices between each other. They've given equal prominence in pretty much every single song. And they've also been very creative with the additional voices which are on there, like we mentioned, Bootsy Collins and Thundercat. There's also a third voice on one of the songs.
Yeah.
Here's my next favorite song of the album, which is something I keep singing
To
my wife.
Yeah.
And what am I singing?
Fly As Me. And the chorus in the song is, honestly, it instills such confidence. It's, I deserve to be with somebody as fly as me, somebody this fly, and you deserve to be seen with somebody as fly as me. Yeah, it's a really cool song, really funky. The beats, everything's super groovy.
Yes, and it's such a power song. It's also something that I feel it would make a really, really cool Instagram reel song.
Yeah,
you know, the guys keep
definitely.
changing their clothes and they just probably do some slow-mo walks, and that's a great tune.
I feel like that's a song that would be featured in like a casino movie.
It could be, yeah. Yeah, actually a lot of the songs can easily feature on pretty much any movie. But there is a song on this album which is actually a lot more suited to a casino.
777.
Yes,
Yeah.
what a great tune. I think
That is
that's probably
amazing.
my favorite song off this album, to be honest.
That's
amazing drum beats. And one thing that I realized is that in one of the interviews that I watched Bruno Mars speaking, he actually said that a lot of the songs were written off the back of Anderson .Paak's drum
Drumming,
beats. Yeah, and that's something that's so relatable to me. I'm so touched and I'm so chuffed about the entire thing that a drummer is at the forefront again. Yes! Yes!
For those of y'all that didn't know, he's a drummer too, so he can relate a lot to the album. And my favorite song on the album is Smoking Out the Window, which was the first song that was written on the album. And an interesting thing about this song is that Anderson .Paak was smash drunk, and Bruno Mars just called him up once. And why are you laughing?
I'm just imagining it. It must have been so wild when they did it.
Yeah, so Bruno Mars just called him up and said, do you want to write? And basically the song was written when Anderson .Paak was drunk.
Yeah, I think it was something like he had some ideas down, Bruno had some ideas down, and then he just gave him a call, and it was his birthday, wasn't it? It was Anderson Paak's birthday.
It was, yes.
And Anderson .Paak was celebrating his birthday, hence he was a little inebriated, and as a result of which, Bruno gave him a call and he said, you know what, I'm just gonna go into the studio and record. And that's how that song turned out. Another
thing I really like about the album is that during their many interviews, they talked about how they pushed each other to new limits. And Anderson .Paak said that Bruno pushed me to limits that I never thought I'd ever be able to reach. Like, they sang notes that they shouldn't have sung because they've really expanded their vocal range in this album. You can see, like, Bruno Mars, he does this one note which is super high even for me to hit, which is it's so high, yeah.
Wow, you did a pretty good job of that anyway.
Thank you.
And that's really a cool essence about this album, is that they're really pushing their boundaries from a vocal perspective.
True.
And each of them being vocal producers. Bruno Mars actually is a phenomenal vocal producer.
He is.
And you can hear it not just in the lead vocals of each Anderson .Paak and Bruno Mars, you can also hear it in the harmonies, in the way they're adding those ad-libs in so many different spaces between the music. And it's really quite a real treat to listen to.
The harmonies surprised me. I fell in love. And Anderson .Paak's rapping in the song, I mean, we know him as a rapper. He's predominantly known as a singer-rapper, but it was just really good.
Yeah, it's like 360-degree talent. I mean, these guys are clearly gifted as musicians.
True.
And that's been our track-by-track breakdown and review of An Evening with Silk Sonic. Do check out the album, and please, as I mentioned in my previous episode, I really would encourage everybody to listen to the album from start to finish.
Yeah. Each and every song has its own individuality, and when they come together, it's something that is enlightening.
Enlightening. Very quickly, what's your track pick of the album?
To be honest, I love Smoking Out the Window, but my favorite song is Blast Off, which is the last song in the album.
Blast Off, the last song. Right, all right, cool. My track pick for the album would definitely be 777.
That's a really, really good song.
Such a cool allusion to hitting the jackpot. I really like that.
True.
And what is your overall rating for this album?
I'd say a 9.5.
9.5.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with 9.5 as well. Yeah, it's right up there with what we gave The Weeknd last week on Dawn FM. And it's so amazing that despite the fact that they're such different artists, they have the same amount of depth as artists in kind of opposite directions, if I may, right? Like a little bit. Weeknd slightly more sort of moody and dark versus Silk Sonic being so playful and fun.
Yes.
And that is our review of An Evening with Silk Sonic. We hope you enjoyed this episode.
Definitely,
And we also would like to thank you once again for following us, for liking us, and for subscribing to us, and for sending in your suggestions, and for sending in your feedback. I'm sorry, can you take it away at some point?
Yes. I was just gonna say, if you guys want us to review any other albums, drop them in the comments. Let us know. We are open to any and all suggestions.
This episode is presented to you by Caviera Creative, the UAE's premier digital audio agency. I'd like to give a special thanks to our clapper, Mr. Kabir Jordan, he's about 7 years old, and to our executive producer. No, I'm not promoting. Our executive producer, who also happens to be my wife, the lovely Judith Ebenezer. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. And moving on to the lead single from the album, which is Leave the Door Open. And you know, that song has been stuck in my head since this phone has been ringing up my ass. Leave the door open. Leave the door open. I'll leave the door open. Don't come from the camera. Oh, there he is. And see you next Sunday.
On Monday.
I was trying to do some sort of thriller vibes because we probably just completely ruined it, you know. Fly As Me, that's my song. It's my jam.
Blast Off.
It's my jam. Blast Off. You know who else has got a song called Blast Off? No one. No one else.